How do LuaJIT and RaptorJIT compile function calls? That's the question we're going to take a little bit of a look at now. There's actually about half a dozen different special case ways that a function can be called, depending on what kind of function it is, and we're going to look at each one of those separately in a little bit of detail. For any kind of function call, there's also a fair bit of stuff that's kind of the same in every case. You always have some arguments that you're passing, so you need to compile the code that produces those arguments. You also have to get your hands on the function object that you're calling, so you need to compile some code to do that as well. In a simple case, you might be just calling a function by its name, but in Lua, being a late-bound dynamic language, that's still going to implicitly be a lookup of at least a local variable, or maybe a table or a metatable, or a lot of other different ways you can produce a function. So that's all the same for any kind of function, but once you have produced your arguments and produced your function object, then you're going to get some very specific code for calling, specialized for calling one specific kind of function. There are half a dozen different ones that we need to consider. There are kinds of functions that are written in Lua, and there are also kind of functions that are written in C. We can consider Lua functions first. The basic way that you call a function written in Lua is you just inline the body of that function. So when the compiler sees a call to a Lua function, it will look up the definition of that function. It will basically copy and paste the contents of that function into its caller at the call site and compile a completely new copy of that function in its caller. It's the same way that a C compiler compiles an inline function, for example. And this is the basic way that function calls are compiled in LuaJIT and RaptorJIT. And it's really, really, really nice because you get the code for the function you're calling inlined into the parent, where you have a lot of context. You can see a lot of information about the arguments that are being passed, about the way that the result is being used, all of that kind of thing. And that can be used really effectively to generate optimized code. Also, because it's inlined, you don't have to do any kind of you don't have to do any saving and restoring stuff on the stack. You don't have to obey platform calling conventions, shuffling registers. You don't have to have a call and return instruction even. It's just as if the function were a part of its caller, which is fantastic. And this is a big reason why you get such kind of optimized code out of the JIT compiler. So that's the basic case. There are another couple of special cases to consider. You might be calling a Lua function that has been previously just-in-time compiled. And then you actually have a couple of different ways you could compile that call. One would be like a normal Lua function call, if you would just ignore the previously compiled code, inline the function definition, and compile it again. Pretty reasonable approach. And the alternative would be to kind of terminate the compilation you're already doing, stop everything, and transfer control to the previously compiled code instead. And the way that the compiler handles this is just with a little heuristic decision. It takes a quick look at the code that was compiled previously to see how optimized it's likely to be. If that code is just going to run the called function once and then branch out to the interpreter, then that's not very exciting, and it will ignore that previously compiled code, inline the function, and compile it again. But if the previously compiled code is a bit more exciting, like maybe it was a Taylor recursive function that was compiled into a tight loop of machine code, then in that case the compiler will defer to that previously compiled code. So it will stop what it's doing and branch there. The other case that's interesting with calling functions written in Lua are blacklisted functions. So a blacklisted function is a function that the compiler has tried several times to compile in the past and failed every time, and has set a flag saying that this is a really hard to compile function, to remind itself in the future not to keep trying all the time. And LuaJIT and RaptorJIT actually do different things here. So when LuaJIT compiles a call to a blacklisted function, it will abort compilation. It will say, no, this you can't call a blacklisted function from JIT code. So that will prevent the callers of blacklisted functions from being compiled, and then they will eventually be blacklisted, and so the callers and the callers and the callers kind of will be blacklisted. So you have this phenomenon that a blacklisting tends to propagate quite widely in the code base, and a small blacklisting will sometimes have the consequence that a lot of code will run interpreted, which may or may not be what you want. RaptorJIT takes the other approach. When you're calling a blacklisted function from JIT code, we just ignore the blacklisting, so to speak, and inline the contents of the function and try to compile it in the context of its caller. And this is really worth doing sometimes, because code that fails to compile in isolation as an individual function might actually compile just fine in the context of its caller when you are exercising different code paths and know more about the parameter types and all of that kind of thing. RaptorJIT tries a bit harder to get you machine code that will run your program at the expense of potentially making more compilation attempts compared with LuaJIT. So those are all of the ways that Lua function calls are compiled. That's about half the story. So the other half is how calls to functions written in C are compiled. There's also three main cases here. Taking the worst case first, if you call a C function that's written using the classic LuaC API, then that's a really bad case for the JIT compiler. It's very difficult to optimize this kind of code. The LuaC API was not designed with JIT compilers in mind, and it's very kind of powerful in terms of what the C function is allowed to do. When you call the function written using the LuaC API, you pass a reference to the Lua virtual machine state, and that function can do basically anything. So it could rearrange the whole stack, it could redefine functions, it could run the garbage collector, it could poke values on the heap, or anything. So what that means is that after you call the C function in this way, everything that the compiler knows about the state of the virtual machine, all of the guards that it's tested, all the values of local variables and everything is all kind of invalidated. So it's really hard to compile this, and the compiler doesn't even try. So anytime the JIT compiler reaches a call to a function written using the LuaC API, it will stop compiling where it is and kind of say that's as far as it can go, and it will then exit up to the interpreter and let that call the C function. So these are kind of inefficient calls. You should probably consider the C API to be deprecated when you're using the just-in-time compiler. It's more something from the interpreted Lua universe. Another case are so-called fast functions. These are also written in the same way. They're also C functions written using this LuaC API and given a reference to the whole virtual machine state. They're a little bit special in that they are specifically implementing the primitives of the virtual machine, like the table library and the string library and all of the FFI library and all of these things. So the practical difference then is that there are a finite number of these fast functions, and the compiler actually knows what each of them is supposed to do. So it has the opportunity to actually specifically account for the expected consequences of calling that function, which means it can maintain its state even across calls to these fast functions. So if you ask for the length of a string, then the compiler knows what kind of side effects that is and is not going to have on the virtual machine. The compiler is often even able to generate specialized inline code instead of calling out of the C code, which is very similar to the way that GCC works, for example. If you ask GCC to compile a memory copy with a constant size argument, it will actually emit inline code to do that rather than calling out to the C library, and the JIT compiler does the same thing. The last case then for calling C code is when you use the foreign function interface, the FFI, and this is a really efficient way to call unknown C functions. You can call any function written in C from any shared object or libc or anything like that. You call it in exactly the same way as the C compiler, and this is efficient in kind of two senses. It's efficient in the direct sense that emitting a call to an FFI function is basically the same code that the C compiler would generate. You follow the platform calling convention, you save any registers you have to, you make a call instruction, and you expect to get a return. That's fine. And it's also indirectly cheap because the FFI functions are not allowed to touch the Lua state in any way. They're not allowed to rearrange your stack or redefine functions and run the garbage collector and poke a heap and all of these kind of things. And what that means is that once the function returns back into your compiled code, the state of the universe is kind of as you left it before you made the call, and you can keep going about your business. This means that you can very easily splice in calls to FFI functions in the middle of blocks of compiled Lua code. It doesn't cause very much disruption at all. So those are all of the ways that you can compile function calls with LuaJIT and RaptorJIT. I hope that makes your programs a little bit more predictable for you. Thanks for watching.